What if I told you the CLI commands you've spent years mastering are becoming obsolete? 87% of network engineers are still stuck manually configuring devices, while XML, JSON, and YAML can automate everything. In this video, I'll show you how these data formats work and why they're the future of network automation. Stick around. Your future self will thank you. XML, JSON, and YAML. The command line interface, the CLI, command line interface, has been the most common method for configuring network devices for the past 30 years. The CLI is great for us humans, but not so good for computers. We use configuration commands to configure everything and show or debug commands to check the work. The output of these verification commands is easy for us humans to interpret. However, it is difficult to use the CLI for scripts or network automation tools. And even configuration commands can be problematic because the network equipment does not display any confirmation after typing a command. The command prompt simply remains blank. Sometimes the CLI may not follow if you put too many orders at once. So, while for us, it's easy to spot commands that couldn't be executed, it's not the case for CLI scripts or network automation tools. This is a problem that must be taken into account. The alternative to the CLI to configure network devices is to use application programming interfaces. These are called APIs, Application Programming Interface. APIs use data formats to exchange information. In this course, we're going to look at the most popular data models and structures. APIs often use three very common data formats, which are XML, Extensible Markup Language, JSON, JavaScript Object Notation, and YAML, yet another markup language. We will detail all of these three formats, starting with by XML. XML, Extensible Markup Language. It's a tag-based language, and if you're already familiar with HTML, then it'll sound familiar. Every element you add should start with the smaller than and ending with the greater than. As shown in the example, where we can see information about a Cisco CSR1000V router and a router 1921, we will now compare CLI and XML output. In the CLI output, we can see the result of the show ARP command. And here's what it looks like in XML. The various elements are well detailed, which makes the XML output very easy to read. JSON, JavaScript Object Notation. Now let's move on to JSON, which is newer than XML and also has a fairly simple syntax. JSON stores information in key-value pairs and uses objects for its format. It is easier to read than XML and uses fewer resources. Objects begin with an opening brace and end with a closing brace. Commas are used to separate objects. Double quotation marks enclose names and strings. And the lists are framed by square brackets. In the example, we see the information of our router, CSR1000 Frilly and 1921. To compare with XML, we will use the output of our two routers in XML. If we look closely at both formats, we can see that in XML, we have two beacons, one for each router, while in JSON, there is only one router object, which groups the two routers. YAML, yet another markup language. Now let's move on to the last language, which is YAML. YAML is a language for representing structured data, like XML for example, but in a more natural and less verbose way. YAML is a superset of JSON. This means that a YAML parser understands JSON, but not necessarily the other way around. And YAML is more pleasing to the eye than XML or JSON. In the YAML, values are separated by colon. Lists begin with a hyphen. and it is possible to add comments with a _rower. YAML files are often used to manage configuration because they are easy to read, and comments are very useful. And here is the comparison between the different languages. The YAML is still easier to read because it does not contain the commas and brackets of JSON. When working with XML, JSON, or YAML files, the ideal is to use a text editor to simplify your life and to have a better visualization. For example, the Visual Studio Code software is ideal for this type of file.